My name is Randall Eggert. This class is Grammar and Stylistics. It's about writing clearly.
Doubt and empiricism. In this video, I'm going to lay out my personal philosophy about the way that science needs to proceed and the way that scholarship in general should be conducted and thought about. So, first of all, I want to lay out the idea of what I see as the foundation of higher learning in general, and that is doubt. And when I say doubt, I mean doubt everything. Now, what I'm talking about is skepticism, but healthy skepticism. What I mean is that you should doubt the truth of any empirical claim that lacks evidence. What I don't want to see is unhealthy skepticism. That idea that I think is all too prevalent, where people just doubt that you can even know the truth. Scholarship, science cannot proceed unless we accept that it's possible to learn the truth. The way that I see that we can combat unhealthy skepticism is to turn it against itself. Doubt the doubt. So instead of saying, I doubt that I can know the truth, you doubt that you can't know it. So let me explain a little bit more what I mean by empirical claims. Empirical claims are, an empirical claim is any statement whose truth can be tested through observation. And an empirical claim, any empirical claim, should be treated as a hypothesis. It's always possible that further research, further discovery could cause us to revise our claims. A non-empirical claim is not subject to evidence from observation. You might still be able to argue about non-empirical claims, but they're not scientific arguments any longer. So here are some examples of non-empirical claims. Like, for example, God exists. That's not something that we can explore scientifically. We need to explore it theologically. Or questions of morality, like capital punishment is immoral. We can talk about whether capital punishment is effective as, say, to discourage crime, but discussing whether it's moral or immoral requires a different sort of argument. Or certain economic arguments, like a government bailout was the only way that we could end the recession. You might be able to argue for that using economic principles, but you can't demonstrate it empirically because we only have one economy. We can't go back in time and test it and to see whether things would have worked out differently if we had done something differently. A little closer to what I talk about in this class with respect to writing, I've seen students make arguments, say, about or making claims rather, about saying things like students today are worse writers than they were 4 decades ago. Well, that's a very subjective sort of statement. It's really hard to measure whether students today are better or worse because our understanding of what a good writer is can change over time. Or another one would be that Thomas Jefferson is the best American writer who ever lived. Well, that's a very subjective opinion. You can argue for your opinion, but that's in an opinion piece. That's opinion piece. That wouldn't be in a research paper. Or something like the comma is more useful than the semicolon. Well, you would need to establish some sort of standard for that, and people may not agree on what that standard would be because usefulness, I think, is a little too subjective as well. So here are some empirical claims that you can make about language and writing. Like, for example, passive verbs are harder to process than active verbs. This is the sort of thing that you can conduct laboratory studies to discover whether it's true or false. So you can support this empirically, or it may turn out that our research shows it to be false, or that L2 writers are more likely to plagiarize than L1 writers. Again, we can conduct research to see whether this is true or false. Or many well-respected writers split infinitives. You might quibble that well-respected is perhaps too subjective. So we might say, define well-respected as writers who are published in, say, peer-reviewed journals. I think that would be a fair way of delimiting this, because I think anybody who is published in a peer-reviewed journal is, to some degree, well-respected. So, to recap, doubt everything except for the idea that we can figure out the truth by exploring things scientifically.